Tabletop Games blog review. Today we're looking at GoodCritters by Arcane Wonders, was released in 2018. It's a 4 to 8 player I card you choose type of game. It's a card game, lasts about 30 to 45 minutes depending on how quickly you play, but it is quite a quick game really. Complexity rating 1.5 out of 5, so ages 10 or above roughly. It's a really easy to learn, easy to teach game, and it's a lot of fun. The game has a lot of bluffing, negotiating and play interaction, and the idea is that every player takes a turn of being the boss of a gang of burglars, and the boss then has to decide to cut up the loot. So say in a 4-player game we've got Knuckles, who's the boss, Tommy, Slim Jim and Tooth. And what you do, you deal number of players plus 2 loot cards into the middle. And you can already see there are various numbers. These loots basically are from $2,000 to $3,000. And it's up to the boss to decide how to split up this loot whichever way they want to. So they could decide to give everything to themselves. Or they could go, well actually I'm going to give some of the money, let's say I'm going to give 12,000 to Tooth and 14 to myself. Basically it's up to the player to decide, but you know, we'll do a relatively even split here with the boss and Tooth getting a little bit more. Now it's up to the whole gang to decide what they want to do, and they have basically 5 options. They can either vote yes to accept. They can vote no to say they don't like the way it's split. But then they have additional options. So vote yes and vote no are quite straightforward. We accept the way it's done or we don't. But here are the additional things. So every player has 5 cards in their hands, so they can vote yes or they can vote no. So far so good. So vote yes just means we accept the way it's split, vote no means we disagree with it. However, you can also skim. That just means you take the top card of the loot pile and put it in your loot stack face down, so no one knows how much you've got there. Here it becomes more interesting now. You can rob as well. That means you take your little standee and place it in front of a player that you want to rob. Now their choice is to play a guard card if they want to protect themselves from a rob. And what happens then, if I do rob them, and they've got the guard card, they actually rob me instead. And that also works if multiple players try and rob the same person. That person can actually rob from all the players that are trying to rob that player. However, this is where the bluffing comes in. I can decide to put my standee in front of Slim Jim, but actually, and that happens more often than not, play a skim card. Because all I want to achieve is I want to get some extra loot for free, but I want Slim Jim not to be able to play their skim card because they're scared, they're worried that I might be robbing them, and basically force them to play their guard card. If they do play their guard card, fine, then I still, get my loot and they don't actually rob me back because I didn't rob them. So it's a bit of thinking going on there, very clever. So what happens really is every player decides what they want to play and put the cards that they want to play face down in front of them. There's no specific turn order or anything. Every player can do it whenever they're ready. And in fact, sometimes players, will play one card and then you decide to put your standee in front of them, so they will change their mind. Or they might not, they might already be confident about what they're doing. Once everyone is happy, everyone's placed a card face down from their 5 cards, all the cards get revealed in turn order, starting with the boss. So Knuckles has threatened to rob Slim Jim, but in fact has played the skim card. He takes the top card from the loot pile, puts it face down in front of him. That's his loot. Whatever happens next, that's his loot. Tommy, well, Tommy, also clever, doing the same thing, skimming. Again, put a bit of extra loot there. Slim Jim, well, he got scared. He played the guard card, gets nothing, but protected against potential rob. And as I say, because I didn't rob Slim Jim, they can't rob back from me instead, so they're lost out a bit. And finally, two's quite clearly skimmed as well. There's lots of skimming going on there. And that's basically it. Now in this case, no one decided to vote yes or no. And whenever there's a situation where there's at least as many yeses or nos, in this case there's neither, so basically 0 yeses and 0 nos, the split is accepted. So everyone takes their loot, puts it face down in front of them, and so far so good. However, whenever there is a equal number of yeses and nos, or actually more nos than yeses, the boss token moves to the next player. If there had been more yeses than nos, so if at least one player in this case had played a yes and no one else had played a no, the boss would have stayed the same and the loot would have been distributed as it was. And of course, obviously if there's more nos than yeses, the loot would not have been distributed, and instead everything would have gone back in the middle, and 2 more cards would have been added to the pile of loot, and the boss player would obviously still have moved on, and now it would have been up to Tommy to be the new boss. However it goes, everyone takes their cards back, so they always have their full set of 5 cards at the beginning of a round. And so it carries on. Also obviously you take your standees back to yourself if you had robbed or tried to rob someone or pretended to rob someone. So you can see lots of decision making all the time. You have to think, right, makes sense just to play my standee in front of someone just because I can, just to scare them. It's also very common that people going up on one player maybe. That's not unusual, but again, that's how this game goes. And obviously the tricky bit is for the boss to decide what they're doing with all this loot. It's going to be impossible to always split it evenly, but they could even decide to take it all for themselves, making themselves a target. Or more likely, they're going to split it between themselves and maybe one other player, in the hope that they can work together against everyone else. Or you could just decide to play it evenly across all players. All of these strategies are really equally valid. There isn't necessarily one good strategy versus another strategy. And in fact, when the game ends, or as it comes closer to the end, that's when you have to decide whether you keep your alliances or break them, and chances are you will break them. The game actually does end when someone draws the first card from the loot pile. It ends immediately at that point, and everyone counts their loot. And the first card is basically, well, according to a certain formula, basically shuffled into the sort of lower third of the stack of cards. And there's a huge stack of cards. It's endless, you know, so you won't know really when the first card comes up. It usually is a surprise. So you really have to try and time it, but there's a lot of luck involved. And as I say, this game constantly makes you think about what you need to do next. Are you going to guard yourself against a potential rob threat, or do you just ignore that because you know they're just bluffing and instead play a no card because people are getting up on you and you want to change the boss? Or do you play a skim card, which happens quite regularly? But if you think that's what people are doing, then of course you can try and attack them back with your own player token. So there is, as I say, lots of options here and lots of thinking all the time. You're making decisions and bluffing and you know, trying to posture and form alliances and talk to each other. As I say, there's lots of player interaction. Going up on people is not unusual, but I must say it doesn't feel negative in this game because you expect it to. Everyone basically gangs up on everyone else, so it's quite normal. So even if you're a bit of a Care Bear player, I don't think you'll find this game too bad because it's sort of the normal. We're all gang up on each other. And of course, if you all get Care Bears, then you can just split loot evenly. You won't be able to do it perfectly, so that's fine. So I don't think that is a problem, but obviously I might be corrected. So if you disagree, do put a comment in the under this video in the comment section. Other than that, as I say, it's quite a lot of talking as well. But if you're not an outgoing player and you'd rather stay quiet and you don't like this all this sort of bluffing and talking and getting into character, then that's fine. You can literally simply just play a card, you're ready, done. Not a problem at all. It doesn't take away anything or add anything to it. It's really up to you how you feel. For some players, they really get into character and they, you know, pretend to be a rhinoceros or a crocodile or whatever they want to be, and, you know, a gangster, and put on the voice and, you know, do all that posturing and bluffing and going, oh yeah, I'm going to attack you now, and so, you know, it all happens, and it's great fun. It's you know, we've played a couple of times. It's something you can play quite quickly. You can learn very quickly. It's ideal to start off a game this evening or finish it off at the end. And it's definitely a gateway game, I would say. Maybe a little bit heavier than a complete easy gateway game, but it shouldn't take anyone too long to learn and get into it. So yeah, you can easily play with your friends, family, you know, other people that might not be into tabletop games that much, and they will pick it up and enjoy it. Other than that, the game is definitely beautifully illustrated. You can look at all the characters here. They are, you know, beautifully drawn. All the illustrations are great. The loot cards are beautiful as well. There's also different cards, different things, all lovely drawn. Absolutely gorgeous. I think that adds to the sort of cartoon feel about it. Sort of, I don't know, Roger Rabbit, that's what comes to mind for me. It's just gorgeous. And also the quality of the cards themselves, they're nice and thick, you know, they shuffle really well. The standees are gorgeous as well, again, following the illustrations are quite thick. And so just having this huge heap of loot is just amazing. There is also additional options of playing with, I think they're called bribes. We haven't tried that yet. It just adds another element basically to the bluffing element, and making alliances by bribing people to vote in a certain way and all that sort of stuff. So this is Good Critters by Arcane Wonders. I can really recommend it. We had lots of laughs playing it, and played a couple of times and really enjoyed it. So if you get a chance to get a copy, I definitely recommend it. And that's all really. So if you like the video, as always, please subscribe, like and comment below. This review is also available on my blog. There's a link in the description below. Also check out my Twitter feed, my Patreon page and Ko-fi page. Again, links in the description. And that's all. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.